My name is Taylor Thiel, and this is my fourth section assignment. ID number 1358250. We're going to start with the Civil Rights Movement. This movement had many goals, which included ending the oppression of African Americans as a minority and in all aspects of the community. They wanted to establish equal rights to every race and ethnicity, such as voting rights. They did this by using violent and nonviolent approaches. Some of the violent approaches included the Black Panthers, which were led by Malcolm X. He believed that you need to do what you need to do to get what you want. If using violent acts is going to get you your equal rights, then that's what you need to do. The nonviolent approaches were led by Martin Luther King. These included protests, sit-ins, and marches. He did these because he believed that a peaceful approach was the only true way to get what you need. This resulted in the Civil Rights Act, which was signed and gave African Americans the rights that they deserved. It also ended segregation in many public places, schools, and other such places. Pictured here on the left is Malcolm X, and on the right is going to be a peaceful march led by Martin Luther King. So this feminism movement was actually kind of a second round of movement because we have already had a movement for women's rights, so this was just kind of pushing it forward to the next step. So for this movement, the many goals included to be seen as equal with men in all aspects, which included job equality, because they believed that a woman can do anything that a man can do. They also wanted to have control over making decisions for their own body, which would include abortion. They did this by having peaceful approaches such as Martin Luther King, the Civil Rights Movement. They believed in lobbying, protesting, and marching to get their point across and educate the public on what they wanted to happen. This resulted in the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, which was a huge accomplishment for women everywhere. It's still very relevant today as the Supreme Court decision that gave women the right to make their own decision about abortion. It also resulted in the equal employment opportunity, which gave women more chances to get the same jobs that are normally given to men. This meant that a woman could truly do what a man can do. Pictured here we have Rosie the Riveter, which was the propaganda poster that went around telling women that they can do what men can do. If you look at her, she doesn't look like the stereotypical woman who is very feminine. She has more of a masculine look, she looks angry, and that made women believe in the cause. The LGBTQ movement was a very special movement because it was not for a specific group. It was men, women, lower class, middle class, gays, straights. It was for everybody who believed that you have the right to love who you want. So since this was not a stereotypical movement for one certain group of people who want the right to do what they want, it still had very similar goals. They wanted to end the discrimination and speculation over who they chose to love and how they feel. They wanted to make people aware that they were born this way. They did not choose this. This is not a choice. They also wanted equal rights in the workforce. They no longer wanted to feel oppressed for who they are. They accomplished this in many ways, but one of the best ways for them were their marches and protests. It educated the public for what they wanted because most people did not know what the LGBTQ community was. They had to be told. And then after that, their cause grew. By doing this, they were able to strike homosexuality off the list of mental disorders for good, which meant they no longer were looked at like they were crazy for loving somebody different. And they were also given equal job opportunities, which was a huge accomplishment. And after that, people felt that they no longer had to be afraid of who they were. Pictured here on the left, we have a march that was done by parents. It was to let the children know that are afraid to tell their parents that it's okay to let your secret out. It's okay to be who you are. And on the right, we have an openly gay man letting people know that he is proud of who he is, and that's okay. In conclusion, we see how they compare. One of the main ways that they compare are their methods that were used. All three used very peaceful methods, even though the civil rights movement did have their nonviolent methods. But they all used some sort of protest, such as marches, in order to educate the public, because that's what they had to do to get what they wanted. Their outcomes that were achieved were also very similar. They all reached some kind of agreement and were given the right to go on about their life how they choose. But they also differed in many ways. But what we're going to talk about is the groups that were affected. With the civil rights movement was targeting to the African American community. The feminist movement was for women. But the LGBTQ community is all of those put together. It affects everybody. Everybody, no matter what race or gender. So in conclusion to that, my personal opinion is that the civil rights movement was the most successful because it fought for the longest and had the biggest fight. This was the most controversial movement because it was not wanted by many people.